Okay, how we doing, folks? Rich Fantassel with you, giving you our game picks for now Week 11 of the NFL season, and of course, recording audio for Get Live Radio. The bye weeks this week are the Indianapolis Colts, New York Jets, San Francisco 49ers, and the Carolina Panthers. Our first game up, the Detroit Lions, 5-4, 3-1 on the road, travel to Chicago to play the Bears, who are 3-6, 2-3 at home. Injuries first. For the visiting Lions, Dwayne Washington, running back; Ezekiel Ansah, defensive end, out. Don Juan, carry safety; Jalen Reeves-Maybin, linebacker, questionable. For the Bears, all listed as questionable: Bryce Callahan, cornerback; Danny Trevathan, linebacker; Deion Sims, tight end; Tom Compton, offensive tackle; DeAndre Houston Carson, safety. So, Detroit traveling on the road, that is, to play the Chicago Bears in a division game. Detroit, of course, has been up and down. They've shown flashes at times. Matt Stafford is playing very well this season, only 5 interceptions to 17 touchdowns, just shy of 2,500 yards. A little high in the incompletions, but that's to be expected. Will Detroit be able to establish a running game in this one? Amir Abdullah still under 500 yards, well below 4 yards per carry. He's over 130 carries, only has 3 touchdowns. Matt Stafford has picked up a lot of the running at times. Just to show you, Mitchell Trubisky has been playing for a while now, and Mike Glennon is still the leading passer for the Chicago Bears. The offense is just not clicking under Mitchell Trubisky as of right now. Again, as I've said many times, it's not an indictment on Mitchell Trubisky. He definitely shows all the flashes. But remember, this is a guy who played, 10 games when he was in college, came into the league. So you're going to have to take your time with him. It's really all about seeing that he can handle the pro game, which he's shown at times. Everything else is going to come. So, can Chicago get a big victory? They've played well at times. They are a young, up-and-coming team. Detroit really needs to have this one. It's an interesting game here. I expect it to be much closer than may be expected. I think that Detroit will come away with the victory. Matt Stafford, once again, will make the plays. But I like 27-24 in what very much could be an overtime game. Chicago is not going to be an easy victory in this game. Next up, the Jacksonville Jaguars, 6-3, 3-1 on the road, travel to Cleveland to play the Browns, who are 0-9, 0-5 at home. Injuries for the visiting Jaguars. Aurelius Ben, wide receiver, is an injury reserve, out. The rest are questionable. Leonard Fournette, running back; Jeremy Parnell, offensive tackle; Patrick Omanea, guard; and Blair Brown, linebacker. For the Browns, Josh Gordon, wide receiver, is out. Sean Coleman, offensive tackle; Jamar Taylor, cornerback, questionable. Very tricky game for a Jacksonville Jaguars team. They got the victory last week. They did just about everything possible to lose that game, but they were still able to come away with the one. Now they're traveling on the road. This is still a team that is now 6-3, very much alive in that division race. They're actually in first place right now because Tennessee lost the other night, and they can get it to a full game lead with a victory over the winless Browns. The Browns, as bad as it's been, will they drop to 0-10? I don't know. They were 1-15 last year. They're now 1-24 under Hugh Jackson. DeShone Kizer, will they send him out there again? I don't even know what the story is. Every time I expect he's not going to play, he does, so I'm expecting he's going to play in this one, and he probably will not. They're getting nothing out of the quarterbacks. Jacksonville is in no position to look down on the Cleveland Browns. They're in no position to look down on any team. However, as we said last week when the Detroit Lions were playing the Cleveland Browns, you just have that natural tendency. You're going on the road, very poor team. Blake Bortles has the tendency to throw turnovers. Things could go wrong in this game. I think Cleveland is going to get the win. I very much could look foolish in this one. But it's just a case where I don't trust the Jacksonville Jaguars enough. I expect Blake Bortles to play sloppy. Again, they almost threw the game away last week. So let's keep an eye on this one. I think that the Browns, as bad as it's been, are going to find a way to get the victory in this one. I like 21-16. Jacksonville, very sloppy. And that's frankly what the Cleveland Browns need in order to win a game. Baltimore Ravens, 4-5, 2-3 on the road, travel to Green Bay to play the Packers, who are 5-4, 3-2 at home. Injuries for the visiting Ravens: Michael Campanaro, wide receiver; Nick Boyle, tight end; Terrence West, running back; Jimmy Smith, cornerback, are questionable. Ronnie Stanley, an offensive tackle, is doubtful. For the Green Bay Packers, Morgan Burnett, safety; Brian Bulaga, offensive tackle, are out. Amon Brooks, linebacker; Quentin Dial, defensive tackle; Lucas Patrick, guard, are questionable. And of course, Amon Brooks is a pass-rushing linebacker in the 3-4 scheme. Baltimore really needs to win this. Their playoff hopes are fading fast. They likely won't make the playoffs at this point. They're not going to get the division. Pittsburgh's running away with that. They need to find a way to go on the road in a tough place to play in Lambeau Field and beat a backup quarterback. You have some questionables on the defensive side of the ball with Jimmy Smith, so that is certainly something where you have that ball-hawking, very good corner in Jimmy Smith against a backup, young, developing quarterback that you might be missing, but again, I expect questionables to go. Will Hundley be able to keep this offense proficient? Will they find the running game in this one? You do have the offensive tackle injury to Brian Bulaga. He is out. Look for Terrell Suggs to have a nice game. Aaron Jones is really starting to come back down. Of course, he burst on the scene against the Cowboys, but he is really struggling of late. Hasn't been terrible, but certainly he's getting figured out. Ty Montgomery injury questions. Will he be able to go as well? It's an interesting game to pick. You have an up-and-down Baltimore Ravens team. Joe Flacco still only 8 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. That's very surprising. They developed the running game with Alex Collins. Expect him to run the ball a lot. I think Baltimore will still take their shots downfield. Morgan Burnett, the safety, is out as well. That secondary has been questionable at times for the Green Bay Packers. It may lead to turnovers for the Baltimore Ravens. Really tough game to pick. With the backup quarterback situation, I'm going to give it to the Baltimore Ravens in this one, 24-17. I think that Green Bay will struggle to find the end zone too often against what is a good Baltimore Ravens defense, and they'll get pressure on him, force him into some turnovers with Brian Bulaga being out and Terrell Suggs. And I like the Ravens to come away with the victory, but then, again, that's a very tricky game. Tampa Bay Buccaneers 3-6, 0-4 on the road. Travel to Miami to play the Dolphins, who are 4-5, 2-2 at home. Of course, this is what should have been these teams' bye weeks this week, but they had to take the bye week in week 1 because of the hurricane. Injuries for the visiting Tampa Bay Buccaneers: William Golson, defensive end; Jameis Winston, quarterback, are out. For the Miami Dolphins, all listed as questionable: Kenny Stills, wide receiver; William Haynes, defensive end; Sonoris Perry, running back; and Michael Thomas, safety. Miami in the same position Baltimore is in. They're both 4-5. No real hopes at the division, so they're looking at a wild card, and even that's going to be tough, so they certainly have to get wins, especially against a poor Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. But that Buccaneers team, without Jameis Winston, was able to get the victory last week against the New York Jets, who were playing for the same thing. Jay Cutler limiting his turnovers pretty well. He's doubled up. 12 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, so that's 2-1. That's not terrible. He's, of course, taking his shots downfield. But you look, the leading receiver is Jarvis Landry, not even 500 yards through 9 games. That's very surprising, with Jay Cutler wanting to go downfield to all those weapons, Kenny Stills as well, and Devontae Parker. Now, Ryan Fitzpatrick played well enough against the Jets last week. I'm expecting a drop-off in this week. It's just in Ryan Fitzpatrick's nature. I expect some turnovers, and Miami is able to run the ball even though they don't have Ajayi anymore. They're going to figure out what they need to do. They're going to use Kenyon Drake, who runs very well last week, in replace of Jay Ajayi, and Miami is going to get the victory. I like 27-14. I don't see Tampa Bay scoring that much against what has been an underrated Miami Dolphins defense this season. All right, we will be back in just a little bit to continue on with our game picks for Week 11 of the NFL season. Be sure to stay tuned. Thank you.